All right, so why is Second Life so great?
Because you can do just about anything you put your mind to. If you have the patience to do it, you can make it come true.
Okay, but if I don't have any patience and if after work I just want to watch Game of Thrones, is Second Life for me, yes or no?
It can be to a certain extent. I mean, you can find an environment within Second Life to tackle just that niche, but it might take a little more working to find that.
But Second Life takes me longer than 5 minutes to sign up. Can't you do it under 5?
I don't know.
Do you think you could solve the issue of keeping people around?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I think I have some pretty good ideas of how to make that happen. Hi, I'm Alex Alberg, and you're listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour.
With Jo Yardley. Sorry we forgot that, Joe. No offense. Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. I'm here with Joe in 1920s Berlin and Second Life, a world that is simulated on over 40,000 servers. I just wanted to throw that number out there, but hi, Joe.
Hello.
So big show today, but I say that every week. As you heard in the station ID, Alex Altberg is on the show with a few ideas how to make SL huge. It's a very brief conversation. The Linden Lab CEO's son is a very talented, very busy race car driver and aspiring stuntman, so there was not a lot of time to talk to him. I saw him race Lamborghinis, Joe, here at Laguna Seca, and I'm telling you something. If my son abandons the goal I set for him, which is to become a world-class violinist, and instead goes into the racing business, I will firmly blame it on the Altbergs.
I think you should be proud if your son decides to become exactly the opposite of what his father wants.
Also, Carl Krantz, organizer of the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Conference, is going to be talking about the upcoming event, which is May 19th and 20th. The creme de la creme of the virtual reality resurgence movement are going to be there, but also Lindens, hopefully to remind these young folks that a world where you can ignore reality and physical location is already in existence.
Yeah, those young whippersnappers, they don't know what's already playing.
Finally, Enkidu Linden, who manages developers at Linden Lab. They work on the financial transaction system in Second Life, among many other things. I don't have to tell our listeners from Second Life how complex this system is, with millions of microtransactions every day, amounting to a volume of over $600 million US per year in user-to-user transactions. It's a staggering number. Enkidu Linden talks with me about finances, about why he is a tiny whale, and why engineers are like children. Actually, he talks also about his grandmother and MacGyver, so there you go.
There you go.
Please subscribe to the show on Stitcher. You'll find the banner on the right. Great way to be up to date and mobile with this show. You can always call us on Skype, DraxFiles, email radio@draxfiles.com, or send an in-world message if you want to get in touch. Our Leap Motion giveaway from last week. A handful of folks participated, which I always find strange with an average of 1,000 listeners per week. So we will let this Leap Motion giveaway run for one more week. Here's the deal. Please carefully watch the latest Drax Files video, which is about teaching chemistry in Second Life. Tell us in a private IM to Avatar Drax Files, what is the German city we see at the end of this video? And then also post on the Drax Files profile feed that you have the right answer. So, Joe, top topics. We've been speculating. People have been speculating. But now we know that Facebook is building the metaverse after all.
Yeah, I think they're planning something. They're not building anything yet.
We're talking about the Oculus Rift CEO, Brendan Iribe. I hope I pronounced this correctly. He talked at an event called TechCrunch Disrupt. Let's listen to a little soundbite here of Brendan talking to moderator Matt Panzerino from TechCrunch.
If you're putting on this, pair of glasses and you're going to be face-to-face communicating with people and you're going to be jumping in and out of this new set of virtual worlds, this is going to be the largest MMO ever made. This is going to be an MMO where we want to put 1 billion people.
So, you talk about it as an MMO, the VR, let's call it the VR platform. Whatever that,
the metaverse.
Yeah, it's like a flashback.
We've also been at a point where somebody promised that there will be 1 billion users in virtual reality. I was actually there in Chicago, 2007 Second Life Community Convention.
But, to be honest, if you've already got, 1.2 billion users for Facebook, or something like that.
That's right.
You're starting with a very good basis.
Are they really building it? Are they building a competitor to Second Life?
going out and replacing vision and actually making synthetic vision where you can put on, hopefully in the future, a pair of sunglasses. This is going to be what we call the final platform. Everything after that is just an incremental improvement. If you look at the previous platforms, you're trying to convince your brain when you're looking at something to take the leap of faith. Even a photograph or a book, you're imagining that you're going to be in that experience, whether it's a game or it's a movie.
Well, yes, but in Second Life, with the connection you have with your avatar, I think we both would argue that the community that you have the connection with, you can suspend disbelief today.
I'm puzzled by it. I find it really odd that I feel this connection with these pixels, but I do. It works. For me, my avatar really is me, and I'm embarrassed when her hair won't rest. And, there are certain avatars when I see them, I think, oh, that's nice. My friend is online, and it does work. There is immersion.
Oculus is also apparently very focused on going after schools and universities with sponsoring hackathons to build applications for the Oculus. They also started an R&D lab. They're actively pursuing education, something that Second Life is a direct competitor, I would say, in the world business.
Medicine, medical, and doing virtual simulation training for medical students. That's going to be awesome for people who can't leave their house or are stuck in a room for some number of years, whether it's an elderly or somebody with disability, and it gives them an ability to have face-to-face communication with their kids or their family. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to travel around the world and see all these really great places, and now virtually people will be able to go and experience it, and when they come out of it, their brain will actually believe that they were there.
And again, here's the deja vu moment. He's listing a lot of stuff that we're using Second Life for today.
Don't they even know that Second Life exists? Don't they have any idea of what's happening in Second Life?
It is absolutely fascinating to me how they can legitimately ignore the existence of Second Life, the size, the magnitude, the fact that it works with Oculus, as we know.
I just think it's odd that they don't even mention it, because, if they said, we know Second Life does this, but we don't like it, or we're going to do it better, fine, good. Understand, go for it.
There was an article, I didn't list it in our lineup for today's show, but I think you sent it to me, where somebody is speculating that in a Facebook metaverse you will be able to have virtual dates. And I was kind of like, what are you talking about? We had happy stories of people finding each other in Second Life and getting married. We had terrible stories of people getting divorced and cheating. It's
not just Facebook, it's not just the Oculus. You can look at Kickstarter, and there are new ideas for games and virtual reality options there, almost every week, where people are saying, oh, we've got this great idea. You can go deep sea diving in a virtual sea. Oh, give us $50,000 to build it.
And you can have a virtual casino.
I understand that Second Life may not be up to scratch in offering those things with the same graphics and with the same
That's right.
lack of lag, but it does exist.
If you criticize Second Life and say, the rendering engine is not on par, so I'm going to do this in a Unity application, it's a different story.
Reputation.
Yeah, and messaging, because if you communicate outward, if Linden Lab were to communicate really strongly that, this is a user-created universe, so some stuff will look like garbage. It's inevitable, and other stuff will look absolutely killer. Then people will understand. Otherwise, they will think, well, what kind of game design studio puts out garbage like this? I understand that.
We've talked about advertising Second Life properly a few times. And can you imagine using this as a Second Life advertisement? You get this flashy video, go deep sea diving, go to a virtual museum, go, all those things everyone's talking about. And then suddenly the screen breaks up and you see the Second Life logo and it says Second Life. We've been doing this for a decade.
This avatar that you're looking at, your brain will be convinced it's a person, because it is. It's just the virtual representation of a person. And being able to have that kind of a platform that kicks off, very soon.
It's clearly their goal to create this sort of virtual place where people can gather and do all these things that we are doing in Second Life. The only thing that they are not talking about, and that is probably the most essential topic, is will they allow their users to have absolute freedom to not just enjoy what they want, but to build what they want? That is the cornerstone of the Second Life civilization.
The building and the monetization of your own creation.
If Facebook and Oculus Rift can create the most stunning, amazing virtual world that has been invented ever, and there's no lag, and it can be completely free, etc., etc., etc. It can be the best thing since sliced bread. But if I can't build my 1920s Berlin there, I'm not going. Perhaps I'm going to use it to chat with my mum, or to share some nice videos of cats on YouTube that I've seen. It's not going to be as interesting as Second Life.
Also want to mention that to me, always when this comes up in this discussion, there's always just this nagging feeling that the whole privacy and identity issue is really not resolved when I look at Facebook's past behavior. If I judge from sort of how they look at online identity, and I think that philosophy that they have displayed through their actions in the past is something that I don't agree with at all, and I think it's actually quite narrow. And as we all know, and as we discuss on a weekly basis, the opportunity in Second Life to find your own identity, to peel back the onion of who you are at your own pace, is incredibly empowering to a much wider group of people.
The general population, we've noticed, we can see in the world today, they care about their privacy, but it doesn't stop them using Facebook today. If the service that's being offered is appealing and enticing enough, people are going to say, oh, well, never mind then.
The lemmings do scare me at times.
Facebook is not a stupid company. They know what they're doing. And if they are going to offer people this virtual world where they can do whatever they like, they're going to realize that people want to stay anonymous when they are, exploring their sexuality or, talking politics or whatever they're going to do in that virtual world. So I bet they're going to offer those services.
Well, Facebook is in the business of making money and collecting data and selling it to advertisers. We all know that.
I do think that Linden Lab has to assume the worst and prepare for a moment when Facebook is going to offer this fantastic, amazing virtual world, and perhaps they are going to offer full freedom and the option, to be completely private and anonymous.
Second Life still has a head start, although being niche in terms of vast experience in dealing with a huge population, with a very diverse population, dealing with a virtual economy and all this kind of stuff. So they have tremendous experience, which will serve them well. But you're absolutely right. Linden Lab has to assume the worst, in the sense that they, I think, have to look at Facebook Oculus now as the metaverse competitor.
It's going to be big. No matter what it's going to be and how they're going to do it, it's going to be huge.
I was going to add that a really great article written in Wired by Judith Donev, who's a fellow at the Berkman Center for Internet and Society. They still have a place in Second Life, by the way. It's very empty, though. She has a great article called Why We Need Online Alter Egos Now More Than Ever. And she talks about the endangerment of pseudonymity online. This is a must-read for everyone, and really kind of ponder these issues. There's a quote in that. It's a fairly brief post, but there's a quote in there. She says, the key to making pseudonymous... Oh my God. See, this is the problem when the show is hosted by foreigners. Pseudonymous participation productive is to inspire people to care about the impression they are making on others.
But that's why you use an alt when you go to that latex party. Oh, sorry. Oops.
Okay, we got to move on, though. Really briefly, Jo, you've seen the new starter avatars that Second Life will offer, I think, maybe in a week or so?
I've just seen two during an interview I did for Designing Worlds, which is going to be online really soon. They were both ethnic diverse, as the politically correct modern terms are. So that's always a good sign that there's going to be more different choices.
African American and Asian. And real quick, I want to cut to the chase here. What do you think, Jo? Do you think that this will increase the attractiveness of Second Life and thereby, by extension, the retention?
Yes and no. On one hand, you're going to say, listen, these are the avatars you can pick from, and they look great, and they look more like avatars we know from modern games. But I'm hearing that there are several issues with mesh avatars. They're a little bit more difficult to adapt and individualize. How can you play with a mesh avatar? How can you make it more personal? And another thing that I never use microphones or voice chat in Second Life, so it doesn't really bother me. But apparently they can't move their mouth when they're talking, which is something that I did notice when Ebbe was talking at his speech on education. And when you're actually listening to someone having a speech, you sort of miss it. You think, hey.
When you compare it to what high fidelity can already do with facial expressions, I mean, it's fairly limited. But if we lose that, I think that's not good.
If I'm not mistaken, all facial impressions are pretty much locked in at the moment.
So you couldn't even buy a HUD that kind of animates the face a little bit?
Smiles, closing your eyes, looking angry. During the entire interview, the two Lindens had the same expression on their face all the time.
Oh my God.
The first thing you're going to notice as a mesh avatar new to Second Life is you go and walk into a bar and you see that everyone else has these old avatars that are much more individualistic. So I think there are quite a few bad sides, but also a few good sides to this progress. It's complicated.
I think now is a good time to play my brief interview with Alex Altberg, son of the boss. He's a race car driver, I mentioned that earlier, and we can thank the almighty Lord that he has his father's ear, because not only does he have great ideas on how to tackle all this stuff that we're talking about every week, all these challenges, the new user experience, but he probably has more experience in Second Life than any Linden currently working at the lab. Why?
Well, and more than both of us.
Well, that's for sure. Because he can also build. You will hear this in a second. His first avatar saw the virtual light of day in 2002. If my math is correct, he was 11 years old then. So I just want to say, parents, if you don't want your kid to grow up driving Lamborghinis and want to become a stuntman, don't let them go into Second Life, ever.
Could this kid be any cooler?
Actually, the first time I played Second Life, never actually logged in. I walked in, and my dad was on the computer, and Second Life was open, and I asked him what he was doing, and he was just hovering there. And, of course, me being the younger me, I'm still curious, but I was really curious, so I started asking him about it. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the first thing I did was play it like any other game in WASD, use the mouse to look around, and I just flew around like a nomad for as long as I could remember, just meeting as many different kinds of people as I could, and making as many friends as I could, and seeing how much different kind of content you could create and see, and just how diverse it was. And then after probably, I don't know, it's so hard to remember the time frame, but after maybe a year or so, I actually started really recognizing how deep you could get into creating content, and I started to try to make it myself. And I really primarily focused on object creation, just using primitives and trying to very efficiently use primitives to create cool things. I'd recreate like some Star Wars ships and Master Chief's armor and stuff like that. So that was how I first started, just replicating other things from movies and stuff like that you could see. And then I got kind of bored with that because, it's very static. Nothing's really happening. And so I looked into Lindens scripting language.
And you were, how old were you? You were 15, 16?
Maybe even younger. I'd have to get some dates for you. And I was in high school. I even remember sitting in the cafeteria at high school, just on my laptop. Everyone at high school got their own laptop. It was a cool school. And I would spend my lunches going onto the Second Life wiki, looking up how to use different functions in LSL, and so that I could apply that to my new Master Chief armor to get the light to light up on the helmet, or the BR battle rifle to actually work. And I actually made my own entire suit, and I was really excited about it. And so I was like, wait a minute, I see people selling stuff. Maybe I could sell what I just made to buy other people's cool stuff. And I opened up a little shop, and it was totally illegal because it was in the middle of the sandbox. So later I realized I actually had to go buy my own land. They finally kicked me out of the sandbox after like a couple hours of selling stuff. So I learned that lesson fairly quickly. And then I had a silly little shop with just a couple primitives, a wall and a sign. And, it wasn't too far away from where people were coming in from Orientation Island. So I actually got quite a bit of traffic. Yeah, I got quite a bit of traffic in the early days. And through that, actually met some cool people that own their own simulators and invited me over. I cannot for the life of me remember, Nexus Corporation, that's what it was called back in the day. And it was a group of like-minded individuals that wanted to create generally sci-fi oriented material, and eventually bought their own island after we had so much traffic from people coming in so interested in what we were creating that we needed to create our own zone so that we had bandwidth.
I didn't even know that you could be so close to the orientation. I think they later changed it.
Yeah, they did.
They made it really separate so that people couldn't hey noob, you have money, I have wares.
My sign was between the sandbox and Orientation Island. You had to go over my store. There was nothing else you could do. So
I know you want to see the world.
Location, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's how I started. But it all started with just flying around and seeing stuff. And then from that, I really got an understanding of the potential of the system. And then over time, figured out how to use it, just like anything else.
We were talking earlier that some people, obviously, that sign up, log in, and they log off, they never come back. Their retention is a big problem. I was always wondering, and you said the same thing, and a lot of people say that they kind of immediately at least guessed that there has to be more than this one island.
Yeah.
So that seemed to be pretty apparent to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to where I maybe didn't have to suffer.
But did people tell you that, or did you figure like, no, this can't just be this one patch?
I kind of just figured it. I mean, my dad was like, here you go, and have some fun. And I just flew around and saw for myself the potential.
This is so weird because a lot of people don't seem to realize that they go in and then they think, oh, that's it, that's boring.
I think in that sense that I was relatively unique. I mean, I was totally into games. I loved playing video games and computers. I played everything that you could name. I probably touched it at some point. And so naturally, when I touched it, I just got so curious and enthralled with it. There were so many possibilities that it just captivated my attention. And yeah, I'm kind of confused as to how more people don't understand it. But like we were talking about, I think a lot of that has to do with basically how they're introduced to the system. It's thrown at them in such a complicated and confusing way that just like any sane person would, they're like, I just don't even want to deal with that.
And it's not appealing,
Yeah.
The orientation. How could we fix the first user experience? Does it really have to look it has to look pretty cool, right? Because people are totally...
It has to portray the potential of the system, quite basically.
People are spoiled visually, for sure,
Yeah.
with games.
I mean, well, not even with games, with movies. You go to the movies and you get all these crazy graphics effects, and now people are expecting that sort of stuff in computer games too, and it's not quite up to that par. But at the same level, you can show people that there is maybe not as visually stunning, but just as immersive content within Second Life. That's the thing, though. The potential is there. People just have to have the patience to unlock it and to learn how to use those tools.
Okay, what else has to be done in the orientation? So people go in and then they have some eye candy and they go like, wow, this looks pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
But then what?
That's just the hook. That's just the hook to get your taste buds a little satiated with Second Life. But then I think it needs to have a very simple 3 to 5 step tutorial to walk you through the basic movement, WASD, mouse look. Maybe you teach you how to right click and edit a simple object, move forward, teleport to a different location. Just the simple building blocks, literally, to get you from A to B and maybe make something for yourself, and then put them somewhere where they see what people have made with those exact tools. 5 steps or less.
How important do you think is it to separate people according to their interest prior to this or not? This is something what we talked about, where the question is, okay, do you find out what they like prior and then put them right there, or do you do that later? Because like you said something like, you think that people don't even know what they want.
No, I don't think people understand what to expect when going into Second Life, and to think that people have a concrete understanding of exactly what they are going to expect to see in Second Life is foolhardy. Honestly, no one knows what they're going to expect the first time they walk in Second Life, and so you can show them just about anything and everything, and it's key to show them the coolest stuff possible, to show them that there is an amazing potential within the system.
I knew a marine biologist who came into Second Life and was for a while making a lot of money with chair. He was the #1 chair and furniture guy. And I suppose that is a good example, because let's say if somebody would have asked him, what are you interested in, and he said... He
wouldn't have said chairs and furniture.
Exactly, because that was his passion that he later discovered. Wait a minute, I have this hidden design.
Yeah, exactly.
That it didn't come out yet, but here it is.
And that's my point exactly. No one would have gone into Second Life being like, I want to design I mean, I get maybe a couple people do, but very few people will probably go into Second Life with a hard set understanding of exactly what they want to do.
So that was Alex Altberg, and let me just add that we talked quite a bit without the recorder running about this idea of an interactive tutorial, and I think we talked about this too, Joe. Basically, sort of a voiceover when you first log in and you appear in the orientation experience, whatever that will be. A voice will be talking to you things like "Welcome to Second Life," a world limited only by your imagination. Let's go through a couple of steps. So you have that voice that is talking to you, and basically a HUD that lets you, in a playful way, discover the magic a bit, sort of step by step. This stuff is done in computer games all the time, and I personally think that this would work really well in Second Life. Of course, others would maybe say, people don't have the patience for a tutorial. They want to go in and experience the content right away.
Well, I think both parties are right. I would really like this idea. I've played computer games, which you would probably hate, where you start the game with some sort of drill instructor shouting into your ear how you're going to have to shoot all those people. But it works. There is someone there. Maybe they can add an avatar instead of just a voice. I don't know. It should absolutely be voluntary. Every game has that. Every game has the option to bypass the tutorial. We can perhaps put it online. I think that an important part of the tutorial is that you should be able to do it on your own. No matter where you start in Second Life, if there's a dozen other people there, chances are that these people are going to be nasty, or they're going to be as confused as you are and just standing there bumping into each other. That's not going to work. But I like the voiceover idea a lot.
We gotta switch gears because we have so much stuff still in the show. Before we go back to Second Life and Enkidu Linden a little bit later in the show, I want to play my interview with Carl Kranz, who is the organizer of the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Meetup, and they're having a conference, a big conference, May 19th and 20th. All the brightest VR hardware and software guys at the Computer Museum in Mountain View. And as we said last week, Ebba Altberg will be speaking on the Metaverse panel, which I hear maybe even streamed in world. Maybe Abby can bring Alex to show these VR kids, that SL is pretty awesome. Actually, I think Alex should appear in every single Second Life commercial from now on.
Hello, I'm a race car driver, and I'm going to be a stuntman, and I'm also having a virtual life. I mean, he doesn't fit any of the stereotypes outsiders have of us Second Life users.
Hi, my name is Alex Alberg. I don't live in my mom's basement. I actually live in a Lamborghini.
Yeah, they shouldn't use us, because, we have no life and no friends.
But anyway, so here's Silicon Valley Virtual Reality founder Carl Kranz with some information what folks can expect from the conference. Here you go, Carl.
Virtual reality has had academic and professional conferences in the past, and they talk about things that nobody can afford or things that are not applicable. In the past few years, VR has been kind of seeping up inside of the gaming conferences, but I believe that virtual reality needs a home outside of the gaming world. We're trying to get everyone in the space involved.
I heard about a little company called Linden Lab, and some person of Swedish origin will also be present.
Yep, that's right. Ebbe Altberg will be on a panel. So we have a lot of amazing panelists. Richard Marks from Sony, who's the guy who leads up the Morpheus project and created the Move. We have Jan from Virtuix. I won't even attempt to say his last name, but Jan from Virtuix, as he is known. Our goal is to make this a big VR playground so people can come in and, there's an expo floor and people can try things, because VR is so experiential. You really have to get in there and try things hands-on.
This is happening at the Computer History Museum, right?
Yep, that's right. So SVVR is a group. We've been doing monthly meetups for the past year. So this event will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary. And our first event a year ago was at the Computer History Museum. So for us, it's kind of a coming home and celebrating a year of doing this. The other significant thing about the location is that it's home to Ivan Sutherland's Sword of Damocles, which is the very first stereoscopic HMD. It's on display there.
Now, what is the incentive to go there, A, for an exhibitor, and B, for the general enthusiast?
The incentives are, one, this is the first conference ever for this space. So we're really kind of building an industry. We're building an ecosystem. So it will never be this intimate. You will never have another chance to get together with a couple hundred other people who are the early pioneers, the people who, now there's no money in VR yet. Everyone believes there will be, but the people that are doing this now are doing it because they're passionate about it.
Now, I hear the critics say already, wait a minute, pioneers, people have attempted to push the concept through into the mainstream for a very long time. Even before Second Life, there was this virtual world called Traveler. There were other attempts, and we've seen an ebb and flow, and we've seen the enormous hype around Second Life, then we've seen the subsequent downfall. What is different today?
All ideas, they try until everything is right, and then they stick, and I think we're just at the point where now it sticks. I mean, it's hard to explain, but when you try it, I mean, when I tried the Rift within 30 seconds, I had been interested in VR my whole life. and Second Life and virtual worlds and all this. And I'd been working in telepresence, which is adjacent, but not quite the same thing. And I tried the Rift, and within 30 seconds, I said, okay, no more telepresence for me. Consumer VR is here. This stuff works. It's like I immediately knew, okay, this actually works. I feel present in a different space. And I can feel present in a different space for a couple $100 as opposed to, tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You said earlier there's no money in VR. I have to push back just slightly because people will say, well, there's obviously $2 billion. Those
are Facebook dollars. I don't know if those count.
They're probably worth less than Linden dollars. Actually, Linden dollars are very stable. I mean, I'm doing very well.
Surprisingly.
I love going to conferences, and I love the Second Life Community Convention. The last one was in 2011. Sad, but true. But why do they cost so much money?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean,
it's $450.
It's true, but you can get it down to $250. There's discount code, which, we have a discount code for you. That's Drax 2014.
Drax 20. I thought Drax 2016.
We have grades on there. So if you pick indie developer, if you're not Facebook, just pick indie developer when you register, and it's $250, and which is really as low as we can get it. The reason conferences cost so much money is, I am learning quickly, is because of the people who set up the booths and the electricians, and, there's food, food is supplied at this conference. So, feeding, several hundred people for 2 days is all of these things, insurance, all this stuff adds up. And we really have the price. We're actually probably going to lose some money on the first year of this conference. We're not doing this to make money, or if we are, we're really bad at it.
I wonder if there would be a technology that makes conferences obsolete. Like, let's say, just theoretically, there would be sort of a metaverse with an Oculus and and 2 STEM controllers.
I really hope that in future years, and hopefully even next year, that the SVVR conference can be the cutting edge of virtual conferences and allow people to participate virtually.
My final question, what does it take for Second Life? I ask everyone this question, especially in the new VR. I know you're not one of the new guys because you actually have the historical context, and thanks to you, some of the young ones learn.
Yes, I'm trying to expose Second Life to this new breed of Oculus fan.
Just like I exposed my son to the great music of Frank Zappa. Yeah, exactly. But what does Second Life have to do in order to stay relevant with this new revolution, this resurgence? Or what do they have that is unique?
What they have that's unique is this world. I mean, first, I think everyone knows this. They need to fix the terms of service, because that was just, for me, that was like the nail in the coffin. And I kind of abandoned Second Life for the past year or so. And only recently I've been going back in and trying things. But, it sounds like they are going to address that issue, because I think that's the magic of Second Life, is that they create the tools and people build what they want. And that can be anything. It's completely open-ended. I can't think of a company that's more well-positioned for a VR revolution than Linden Lab if they can get it right. They have 10 years of experience or 11 years of experience dealing with all of the issues that pop up around virtual worlds, the governance, identity, privacy. There's, a ton of issues. They're very well-positioned if they can, get the technology right. So you have to have 60 frames in VR. And when I try the VR Second Life now, it's a bit laggy and it's not as good as, a native Unity VR experience.
If you give this unlimited freedom of what people can build, then people can build stuff that just can't be streamed fast enough, I suppose. But then when you're restricted, it becomes sort of, I want to do other stuff. I don't want the Disney-fied version. I want my thing.
I would love to see Linden Lab open up a bit as far as, becoming, pick a few things that they're good at. I mean, obviously land is too expensive. I had like 2 years in my life where I was doing well enough to own an island. I could not justify spending $200 plus a month on an island, and if you have any less, it's really hard to do anything interesting. But I would love to see them just pick a few things, like maybe the economy, the Lindens, a few services, identity, something, and open up the rest and open it up to, OpenSim, try to include all of these other attempts at creating a metaverse and just become some sort of gatekeeper.
So that was Carl Kranz with tangible advice for Linden Labs corporate strategy. Let's see what happens down the road in the battle over metaverse control. Regardless, here at the Drax Files Radio Hour, we can give you $100 off admission to this conference, May 19th, May 20th. The promo code is DRAX2014. Oh, wait, maybe a listener wants to go and report for us because we both can't go.
That would be good.
Hey, listeners, if you have a microphone, a little mobile recording device, go to this conference and grab everyone and force them in front of your microphone and ask them questions and send us the audio, and we're going to talk deal.
Haven't we got one of those leap motion thingies?
Hey, a leap motion.
Yeah, want to earn a leap motion?
Going back to actual Lindens for now, who are not gatekeeping, but world running, so to speak. Enkidu Linden, who I spoke to a few weeks back, he used to work for the state of Michigan House of Representatives. Isn't this amazing? Now he's an engineer manager for platform operations at Linden Lab, and he's been at the lab for over 5 years. And you will hear later in this interview how public office was the perfect training ground for his current job. So here's Enkidu and I talking about, well, a lot of stuff.
We do millions of transactions a day, a critical component to the architecture. Mm-hmm. My favorite part of the system, probably not going to shut up about it.
Why is it your favorite part? My favorite part is building things.
Just going back to something you said earlier about people creating things in world, selling them to each other, building businesses, being able to have experiences that they couldn't otherwise have. It's really special to me because of that, but I have a better aptitude for that sort of economic thing than I do for building.
Well, I can't build a chair, to be quite honest, so that's why I'm just documenting.
I've built some spectacular cubes.
I'm sure they're either green, blue, or yellow, right?
Sometimes they're wooden.
Well, that's back in style.
I've moved on to spheres, and I'm thinking about cones.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite at the cone level yet.
Don't rush it.
It's better for everybody if I stick with what I'm good at.
Empowering people with giving them the tools to monetize their creations is something that's also lost sometimes in translating Second Life outward. I often point out to people then, look, there are people, they make their entire living selling virtual goods or services. How would you communicate this to your grandmother or someone who has never seen it?
I actually have had this conversation with my grandmother. So it's a good question. Fortunately, my grandmother is rather tech savvy for an 83-year-old, so it wasn't too difficult. But when I explain Second Life to people, it always starts off with questions about why people would buy things or try to sell things that don't actually exist.
That's right. And then what do you say then?
Well, I say, when you first come into Second Life, you're not exactly naked and afraid, but you're close to it virtually. I think it's very natural to want to take a very small step into the virtual space by purchasing clothes or deciding that you don't want to be a human, you want to be a dragon, you want to be a robot. I mean, I am currently a tiny humpback whale.
Oh.
It's one of a progression of avatars that I've had, but...
So that's not static, you're still exploring.
I change my avatar all the time.
From this point, I only always profiled folks that have an incredible attachment. They go through tremendous pains to even upgrade maybe hair or a better skin that is now available.
I'm exactly the opposite. To me, I think that the use of an avatar as an expression of identity is a really profound thing. But the way that I approach that personally is on the total other end of the spectrum. I want to be a whale. I want to be a jellyfish. I have quite a wide array of marine life. Are they expressing some part of my personality that I like at the time?
You mentioned marine life. That has to have something to do with your preference. Maybe you...
It's part of my preference. I mean, we're in Santa Cruz today. I grew up here. I kind of gravitated towards the things that I'm curious about and interested in, and I just sort of become those things virtually. And
I think what is fascinating to people, residents, is you guys are not just quote-unquote phoning it in, basically going in, clocking in at 9, going home at 5. Not only that, I've heard it expressed many times. Sometimes the phone is ringing in the middle of the night or something, emergency-wise. But not only that kind of rapid response, you also seem to exploring and having fun with the world itself.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We have many of our meetings in Second Life in Linden-only regions. Residents don't normally get to see that we're in there doing this. Occasionally they'll break down into our use of appropriated griefing tools, but they're...
Well, I just saw Maestro Linden stuck his head into a pile of money. That's kind of a fun work environment.
We have some good toys. I try to make a point with my reports that we are doing this for a reason. It's not just a paycheck. You know, we want to maintain a connection with the product that we're working on. I mean, you can call it eating your own dog food if you want, but to me it's more about just understanding what it is.
But also you're not working on, let's say, a refrigerator. You're working on a world, a platform that people inhabit and have tremendous cultural connections to. So ultimately you're working in human relations. I mean, by extension, you're facilitating
we're a
human...
step away from that. But yeah, I think that that's really true. Our job is to make sure that people can have the experiences in Second Life that they want to have. And if we never have those experiences ourselves, then how can we understand what they are?
We're having a very fascinating conversation. I'm learning a lot about you, about identity and how you feel connected to the world and everything. But I still don't understand what you're doing.
What I do right now is manage people. So I'm helping to make sure that they have what they need in order to create great code.
But I guess what is the complexity in the code right now? I'm buying Lindens. I have them. I go to the store. I spend them. That's it. What's the big deal?
If it seems that simple to our customers, then we're winning. But what happens behind
Actually,
the
3 years
scenes
ago, it didn't seem that simple because they wouldn't want to take my credit card. And I go like, are you guys nuts? You don't want my money?
Yes. I'm glad that we do that now. But, you know, I think there's something very unsexy about buying Linden dollars. The sexier part comes later when you get to spend the Linden dollars in World. When you're just putting your credit card into the system and making the purchase, it is really, from the perspective of a resident, it's probably the least exciting part of the Second Life experience.
That's right.
Right? Because not only are you parting with your own money, but it's not actually taking place in World. It's not, it's not a very strongly connected part of the Second Life experience.
I have this vision of cool banks. It would be really cool to have it integrated into a real interactive experience. A real bank, I have to walk into the bank.
That kind of experience actually doesn't work well. Forget about buying Linden dollars for a second and just think about what the marketplace gives you. You could just as easily say, if you want to buy a really cool shirt for your avatar, you have to go in Second Life to that store and walk inside of it and find the item that you want and buy it and walk out and awesome, you've got your shirt. And you totally can do that today, but people still spend a lot more of their money on Marketplace. What it boils down to really is that people don't really want to spend their time going from store to store trying to find the one thing that they want.
It's the same relationship in the real world between, I guess, Amazon and my local bookstore. I only go to the local bookstore if the local bookstore has, let's say, a reading of an interesting author, has a cafe where I can hang out with people. And that is to this whole discussion. The people who are successful in Second Life with in-world shopping experience, they add other value and they do it very smartly. They either have a really cool sim, they have people going in together in sort of a fair type situation.
Right, so they've built a whole experience around shopping. So it's not just like, oh, I've got to plow through this whole list of places that I want to go to and try to find the thing that I want. It's more like, I want to go shopping, so now I can have the experience with shopping that I'm looking for. Right? It's like sort of like when I get dragged to the mall to shop for something.
You're speaking my mind.
It's if I don't want to be there, it's not an experience that is going to turn out well for me. I go to places like the bookshop Santa Cruz downtown. Vastly prefer going to a bookstore here than to shopping on Amazon.
That's interesting. Okay, forget this idea with walking to an ATM machine. No, I hate it myself. In SL, like imagine. I'm running out of Lindens. I gotta find an ATM.
But it's hard. And then once someone's card is in the system, you've got to do all this stuff with making sure that nothing fraudulent is happening. The payment might not work through the system immediately. Most people don't realize this, but even regular credit card transactions, they take on the order of like 5 to 10 seconds to process through the network. People don't usually want to have that experience, right? They want to just get the money and get out of there.
And you guys want our money. I want you guys to stay in business.
I don't want to take your money for no reason. I want to give you something that you think is worth the money. Obviously we think that we're providing that. It's a little interesting because you're giving us money that we are turning into a Lindex transaction, which most of that money actually doesn't go to us. Almost none of it goes to us. Most of it goes to the person who's selling the Linden dollars, which is another resident. You're taking those Linden dollars in the world and buying things in there, which is going to basically push those Linden dollars to some other resident who will, ultimately turn around and sell them on the on the Lindex and eventually be able to cash out of the system. So, except for certain specific things like premium memberships and buying a whole region of land, that sort of thing, in a way we're selling products that are created by other people. We're just facilitating the sales of those things. If you go directly through me, you are actually on our Lindex, you are actually buying those Linden dollars from other residents. If you had Linden dollars and you decided, I'm done with these Linden dollars, I want to take the value out of the system, then you sell them on the Lindex and they get paired up with another resident's buy order, and you end up getting credits on your account that you can later cash out of the system with. We have the ability to print Linden dollars, essentially, create them from nothing, and we will sell those back into the system to help stabilize the exchange rate. And what that is doing is just keeping the US dollar to Linden dollar exchange rate around where it is today. And that's a really important part of the economy that's not obvious. What it's doing for people who make things and sell things in the world is it's giving them the ability to set and maintain a price for the goods and services that they're selling in the world. We don't really make a terrible amount of money on those sorts of printings and sales. They really are just to help keep the exchange rate as something that's nice and steady for everybody. Because what happens on the other end is, someone might end up with some Linden dollars and stop logging in. And so some of the Linden dollars end up getting
They've been taken out of the system. They're locked up.
They're basically taken out of the system, right? So the people never come back, so they never return to spend those Linden dollars. Our Lindex is basically just handling the matching between the buy orders and the sell orders.
So that is just automated. When I go in, I want to have $100. Want to buy Lindens. The system matches that up with something that is coming in.
So if you do the usual way, a market buy order, you're basically just saying, give me the best rate that you can, and it'll go find the sell orders that provide the best rate.
But how is that rate determined?
The rate's determined completely by the market. So aside from the fact that we're trying to keep the rate stable, it's completely market driven. If you look at the transaction data that's on the website, you can see there's a nice little bracket for the buy and sell spread. About what you would expect. If you're me and you get to see the transactions more up close than that, you can actually see that there's quite a bit of jitter that happens in the effective exchange rate, and it's purely driven by the market, what people sell their Linden dollars for. Before I worked here, I used to work for the state of Michigan, worked for the House of Representatives, so I was working for one of the branches of the government. And what I observed was that if you're an outsider looking into the government, you have a tendency to see it as a large monolithic thing. Everyone behind the fence is in cahoots with each other.
And they are always, maybe out of necessity, against you somehow.
And that they're all against you somehow. It's easy to see why that is. I mean, the government is the one who's enforcing laws. They're the ones who put people in prison. They're the ones who collect taxes from you. It's easy sometimes to forget the benefits that government bestows, particularly when, as we are in the United States, where you haven't had a war fought on our soil. You don't see a lot of the what it means to. I'm just drifting wildly now.
No, but it's totally true, because also when you compare it to Europe, the experience of the Americans coming here and sort of the more rugged, I mean, there's no coincidence to me. Again, I didn't study it. I think it's fairly obvious that some of the entire libertarian sort of strand here is directly due to the sort of, we were able to go westward and we survived, so why do we need these people now who put up a stop sign?
Exactly. When you're inside the system, you see what it really is like, and it's not that different from the outside world. It's just a whole bunch of people, and most of them are just trying to do the best that they can. What I observed was that there were, even within the party that I was working for, was that there were a couple of jerks, and there were a couple of people who were just amazing, altruistic, generous, brilliant people who were just trying to make a positive difference in their communities. And then you have a lot of people in the middle who are also trying to do the same thing, or maybe this person isn't quite as brilliant, or maybe this person isn't quite as altruistic. But mostly they're all, just trying to do what they can for the people that they're serving. And they just come into conflict. They don't all have the same information at the same time. The party system itself is designed to create conflict. And if you...
The two-party system
really is. The two-party system in particular. And if you read some of Jefferson's works about the two-party system, he talks about how great it is to have a two-party system, to have the conflict. Sometimes it's good to have that conflict happen in private and have the product of the conflict come out to the public, which is normally what happens inside of a company like Lindens. But in government, everybody wants the government to be more transparent, and you end up seeing more of the conflict, and everything seems horrible. Nobody can get their act together. Congress is awful. I mean... It just looks like nobody knows what they're doing, and if they don't know what they're doing, they must be really good at being evil.
That's right. And the complexity of the system is simplified. And if I were, and then sort of maybe the childish, the childish sort of antagonism of I could do this better. Maybe something like that also plays into a role. It's kind of a human impulse.
They can do something better. Yeah. Just to make it more concrete for what I do. This is something that happens with engineers all the time. I call it engineering hubris. It's basically the sense that an engineer has that they can do something better than some other engineer did, without really accommodating for the constraints that engineer had when they were creating the original system. The best way that I have to deal with it is to call out when I am feeling that hubris myself. I'll say, wow, this system, it really could use some help, but and I wish that we could go back in time and do this over, but I can't also assume that it's going to turn out better if I were to go back and be the one engineer in the project with the same deadline and the same project requirements and the same other people working on it. It would be different, but would it be better? I can't really say that.
This is a very human condition that we sometimes feel we can do it better, and if you just let me do this, then it would be better.
Yeah.
How do you gauge that, though? Maybe that person is right.
I normally gauge it based on what I hear them saying. It takes a bit of tuning, but what you hear is a lot of things that disparage the quality of the system without talking about specifically what's wrong with it. And on the other side, you'll hear them saying stuff like, I could make it so much better. So it's about quality, and it's not so much about concrete changes that could be made.
That's a good indicator. I agree with you. In my field, it's exactly the same way.
So I will often say, can you write a plan? Can you write an engineering level plan that demonstrates what it is you're intending to do and why it's better? And that often acts as a deterrent for that kind of attitude, because once you start to think about what it is that you actually have to do to get the work done, you realize that it's harder than you thought.
Do you have children?
I have 3 children now, yeah.
I can tell, because that's how you have to help children. It's not to disparage them, and sometimes you have to put the brakes on, and sometimes you feel, that's how I feel. You feel bad maybe you think, oh, maybe I'm killing their energy right now, but
it's almost easier with children, because with children you can give them the space to make the mistake. With engineers it's different, because if I give someone the space to make that mistake, it could cost the company a lot of money.
Right.
I have to be really careful about doing that. And on the other hand, as a manager, it's really important to me to help people grow their experiences and their careers as they work here. So I have to also be very careful that I am providing people with those kinds of experiences.
And you're fixing something while it's running. I think that's what was also the crux here of many conversations I had. You don't have the luxury to, I think Danger said this, you don't have the luxury to take down the bridge.
Yeah.
And then think of a nice new bridge, and nobody can cross
I call this
the river.
The Indiana Jones problem. You have a system that's under a lot of load, and it has very tight performance tolerances. You can't just cruise into the ruins and replace the statue with a bag of sand and get out of there. It's just not that easy. It really requires a lot of careful thought and consideration, and sometimes even in spite of the fact that you give it your due diligence, you still make a mistake. It has to be okay for us to make mistakes. Yeah. We should take this very seriously, but no one is going to die if we make a mistake with this. We can't be paralyzed into inaction because we're afraid to make improvements or things will never improve.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been really great talking to all of you guys. My final question, though, is the Indiana Jones problem the same as the MacGyver problem?
It's a great question. We don't actually want MacGyvers. Because although I personally love MacGyver, I thought it was a great show.
The theme music was probably almost better than Airwolf.
Indeed, I don't know. Theme music wise, they're pretty close.
Yeah.
But I think if you're MacGyver and you're trying to get out of a life and death situation, then duct tape is great. But if you're Linden Lab and you're trying to create a lasting technology and a product that makes us money and makes our customers a lot of money, you don't want duct tape holding everything together.
So that was Enkidu Linden, and end of the show. Real quickly, I want every listener to check out Bill Moyers talking about net neutrality. This is one of the big issues of our day. Depending on how the Federal Communications Commission will rule, it can change the internet in this country, the US of A, in ways that can be extremely bad for the average user, for the small nonprofit, even for an entity as sizable as Netflix. Read up on this stuff, because the big players will be able to buy their way into higher speeds, and the people who own the pipes, Comcast and those monopolies, they can determine the price. They can set the price.
I did hear that Google is an opponent. And they are a very powerful ally to have on your side.
No, it's amazing, because everybody who doesn't own the pipes is basically opposed to this. There was almost a situation where Netflix was sort of, mafia style, encouraged to pay a very high amount to make sure that people can view the content.
Give us some money, it would be a shame if your shop was broken,
Yeah, it would be a shame if people don't watch your movies.
You got to do it with the Italian accent. Would be a shame if someone came in and broke all your movies. Don't want that. Pay some protection.
I was trying a New Jersey accent.
Yeah, don't do that.
I can't do that. Okay, anyway, the diversity, richness of content on the internet will suffer. We'll link up the Bill Moyers episode about net neutrality. Very, very important. And finally, Fantasy Fair. You got to visit Fantasy Fair. It's the best SL has to offer in content and designers, no doubt about it. Last year, they collected $10 million Linden for Relay for Life. This year, we can top this, so go there now. Joe, do you have anything, special events this weekend or anything that folks should do? People with too much time on their hands?
No, not really. I'm going to visit Flashman's, a well-known bar in Second Life that I haven't been to for a while. But it is pretty much the only reason I'm still in Second Life, because it is the first place I found with a lovely historical atmosphere and old music. So I want to have a look and see what it looks like today, and see what's happening, if they've got a show going on.
Oh, that is cool. This is like Neufreistadt was for me, sort of the entry point that stuck.
We should ask people if they remember the very first place that they went to that made them want to stay.
Absolutely. That is a great idea. Folks, call us or leave a message and leave a little post on our blog about your experience. What was the first place that made you stay? Why did you stay? Why are you still here?
Maybe not just the first place, but also the first experience, because I think that's very important in a discussion about a new user experience. What made you stay? If we can find out why most people are still in Second Life, we may be able to find out how we can help new users.
Fabulous idea. By the way, Canary Beck from the Basilique Theater Company did a profile on their Paradise Lost production that is still running, by the way. They have a Salon series where they actually discuss these things, and they bring people together and they talk about what made them stick around and why are they still here. So this is something where I can, again, have to emphasize, call us, because we're on the radio. We're not in print journalism. We want to hear your voice. That'd be great. We forgot to mention High Fidelity this week. So it's an entire week without Philip Rosedale's High Fidelity. We're now both alpha testers, right?
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Joe. They totally ignored me. Philip knew me once, but now he doesn't even greet me anymore.
I've pulled a few strings. No, I'm just kidding. I've somehow managed to get into the alpha, and it's really great because you know what they're doing. They are.
Yes, you can. It's just amazing. It's amazing, and.
Yeah, but the strangest thing was, and it's really exciting that they do this.
I can't believe that Philip solved. We've been talking about in Second Life for I don't know how years, and he just took a couple of months, and then he already put. Oh crap! We can't talk about this, right?
Better bleep all that.
No. Okay.
You know, Philip's avatar has got this.
All right. Have a great weekend in High Fidelity or wherever you're gonna hang out.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Leap Motion, SL Go by OnLive, Stitcher, Bite Girls Identity Circus, Caravel Design, Vika Creations, Humanoid Animations, Escapades, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Nantra, Angel Red Couture, Fallen Gods Incorporated, What's Next, Avacon, and Landscapes Unlimited. Special thanks to Alex Altberg for providing the station ID this week. Contact the show via Skype Drax Files, Avatar Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.